It is 0 hour 30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Lebanese troops have begun moving into areas of southern Lebanon after the withdrawal of Israeli forces. United Nations officials confirmed that Israeli troops moved out of areas including Bent Jbeil. Lebanese forces entered the town for the first time Tuesday after establishing security positions nearby. UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan said he expects Israel to lift its blockade of Lebanon by Thursday. Mr. Annan said the blockade is harming efforts to rebuild the country. In other news, the Turkish parliament has approved a measure to send military forces to join the UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon. Reports from Palestine say a car has exploded in the Gaza Strip. At least one person has been killed. 10 others were injured. Media reports say Israeli aircraft were in the area at the time. They say Palestinian militants were targeted in the attack. The Israeli military has refused to comment. In Israel, Vice Prime Minister Shimon Peres says new peace talks with Palestinian officials will take place only after militants free a captured Israeli soldier. Mr. Peres said Israel's Prime Minister would then meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas for talks about the peace plan known as the Roadmap. But Palestinian officials say the president has yet to be invited to such a meeting. The Iraqi parliament has extended emergency rule in the country for 1 month. Parliament approved the extension Tuesday. The extension gives security forces more power to suppress violence. Iraqi President Jalal Talabani says he thinks British troops will be able to leave Iraq at the end of next year. Mr. Talabani spoke after a meeting in Baghdad with British Foreign Secretary Margaret Beckett. He told reporters he thinks Iraqi forces will be ready to take control of the country's security by the end of 2007. Ms. Beckett said the Iraqi president was not setting a time limit, but was giving his personal opinion. Earlier, the United States military said 3 American troops were killed Monday in the Iraqi province of Al-Anbar. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization says Allied forces have killed up to 60 Taliban rebels in southern Afghanistan. A NATO spokesman said the latest violence took place in Kandahar province. 5 Canadian soldiers were also killed during the offensive. One of them was killed accidentally in an attack by American airplanes. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice spoke with the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs and announced an investigation. President Bush says there can be no negotiating with terrorists. He says they reject the possibility of peaceful living. Mr. Bush spoke to a group of military officials Tuesday in Washington. The president said the United States is safer since the terror attacks of September 11, 2001. Mr. Bush also described an improved plan for fighting terrorism. The plan includes denying weapons of mass destruction to governments and terrorists. Earlier Tuesday, leaders of the opposition Democratic Party said the president has failed to make America safer. Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid said the administration has yet to act on many of the suggestions made by an independent committee. The committee was created to study America's reaction to the September 11th terrorist attacks. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. A top American diplomat says the relationship between China and North Korea has changed in recent weeks. Christopher Hill, the Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia and the Pacific, made the comments after arriving in Beijing Tuesday. He said he knows China has been very concerned about North Korea following their test firing of missiles in July. Mr. Hill says he is telling Chinese officials that it is time to find ways to begin a United Nations Security Council measure passed in response to North Korea's missile firing. The resolution calls for member states to prevent North Korea from getting the technology needed to make missiles or weapons of mass destruction. East African leaders have agreed to send peacekeeping troops to Somalia. Tuesday's decision by the Area Intergovernmental Authority on Development did not say how many troops would be sent or when they would be deployed. Islamic forces that control Mogadishu and other parts of Somalia do not want foreign troops in the country. The Islamic forces agreed with the country's temporary government Monday to form a unified national army and police force. The agreement says the Islamists and the government will work together peacefully without foreign help. The Chevron Energy Company announced Tuesday that it has successfully entered an oil field in the Gulf of Mexico. The oil field has been described as possibly one of the largest oil fields in the world. A test took place in waters southwest of the city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Early studies show that the oil field could hold between 3 and 15,000 million barrels of oil. But oil experts warn that it could be several years before the field is at full production. The space shuttle Atlantis is to be launched into the Earth's orbit on Wednesday. The launch attempt follows a delay of more than a week. The United States Space Agency says weather conditions are expected to be very good in Cape Canaveral, Florida. A launch planned for last week was canceled because of bad weather. The astronauts will travel on Atlantis for an 11-day trip to the International Space Station. The astronauts are to connect solar panels to the space station. The devices will one day produce 25% of the station's energy. And now briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. Lebanese troops have begun moving into areas of southern Lebanon after the withdrawal of Israeli forces. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization says Allied forces have killed up to 60 Taliban rebels in southern Afghanistan. And the Iraqi parliament has extended emergency rule in the country for 1 month. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.